KNAC.com, the loudest.com on the planet. I have a really exciting pleasure to speak with Scott Travis of Judas Priest, one of my favorite drummers, man. How are you doing, bro?
Very good, man. Thank you. Coming out of the pandemic that we've all been suffering through, I feel blessed to just be healthy and above ground. And, you know, we obviously had a gig last weekend and one concert in the UK at Bloodstock Festival.
Bloodstock Open Air Festival, man. It must have
Yeah.
been like outrageous just to be like in front of a huge crowd.
Yeah, you know, obviously, like everybody kind of already knows, but it's been over 2 years since we played live. And so, like you just mentioned, to play that audience as opposed to doing your own gig in a theater or whatever, something like that, it was really, really a great reintroduction, you know, to be in live on stage. It was awesome.
But were you a little nervous, or was it like?
Yeah, everybody was nervous, which was
It's a good thing.
kind of unique. Just because, you know, usually none of us really, if we get nervous, no one really talks about it, but everyone was, and plus we were doing a lot of new songs. We were doing songs either the band had never done or we hadn't done in 10, 15, 20 years, like One Shot of Glory and stuff like that.
Yeah, I heard like the response, like everybody was like stoked that you guys played some tracks. They were like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, we're gonna keep those in the set. Invader we played, also a Rock and Roll Woman. But anyways, you're going to keep a lot of those in the set for this upcoming American Light, hopefully.
Yeah, starting in next month, right? Just right on the tail end of your birthday, right?
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple weeks away, yeah, Pennsylvania.
Right. I'm hoping to catch you out here in Los Angeles, and I did catch you guys last time when you guys were here with I believe it was with Uriah Heep.
Yes.
Yeah, that was an awesome show. Awesome show.
It's weird too because that was probably, well, I know it was over 2 years ago.
That's probably the last tour you guys were on, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, but it does and it doesn't feel it's been that long, if that makes any sense. I did an interview earlier and the guy asked me, you know, what did it feel like on stage? And I said, basically what I just mentioned is like, it did feel like it had been 2 years, but then it kind of didn't, in the sense that it felt like we were back where we belong, Judas Priest in front of our great fans. And so it, but trust me, I don't want to go 2 years again. So
no. Like, you know, the last couple of years is, yeah. I mean, what are we gonna say that we haven't said already about it, man? You know, but we're glad, like you said, man, we're glad to be here. We're, you know, now the concerts are coming back, and you know, hopefully precautions are in place and stuff like that. So you mentioned there was a bit of nervousness, you know, getting back on stage. When's the last time that you remember being like so nervous for a big show?
Wow, that's a good question. Dude, for me, you know, it's weird you mentioned LA and the times. And by the way, in honor of KNAC, I had to pull out my original Headbangers Ball t-shirt. I used to have some KNAC shirts. I'm sure I have one in my multiple boxes of t-shirts that are stashed all over the place. But and I'll tell you another KNAC true story here in a minute. But anyways, probably when I first joined the band, so 1990, Painkiller comes out. I think the album was released in September of 1990. Well, right before the album came out, I want to say like literally that weekend, so it might have even been Labor Day weekend, we did a gig at the Foundations Forum. I don't know why I keep doing quotes, but anyways, because they don't do the Foundations Forum anymore. But if you remember that, it was always held in LA. It was always around early September. And it was basically like, my analogy, it was like the NAMM show, but instead of for musical instruments, it was for new and upcoming bands. Anyways, I think on Foundations Forum, it was in the hotel down there somewhere in I want to say downtown LA. And we played live it was being broadcast on the radio across the nation. So that was technically my first gig with Judas Priest, and knowing that it was literally going out live on the radio, I was pretty nervous. So that was a long time ago, 31 years.
As everybody knows, like the introduction into Judas Priest was a Painkiller, and just that drum solo that you just break into it. It's just, man, that is like a staple in like heavy metal music. You know what I mean?
Thank you, man. It's an honor to have that as the title track, and B, just to be able to play on that record, which is stood the test of time. Again, I can't believe it's been 31 years. I really don't know where that time went, but it's been a minute, and that album is seems to be still a favorite amongst Judas Priest fans and heavy metal fans. So it's a real honor.
Yeah, it's totally fun to play that track. Like I myself am a drummer, and like just trying to, copy what you're doing on that stuff. It's just like intense, man. It's just an intense sound, an introduction to a sound. That's, if you're gonna come into a sound, drums are the best way to come into a song, man. You know.
Absolutely. I'll segue because you mentioned you're a drummer. So whenever I talk about when I was a young drummer, which was, as we know, was a long time ago. But anyway, so you always wish, I'm sorry, I always wished or had a desire, dream, fantasy, whatever you want to call it, that, I could have a signature song, because we all know Rock and Roll by Zeppelin, and Hot for Teacher came out later, and even Exciter by Judas Priest with Les Banks. Very signature intros that also felt like they were part of the song. In other words, it's not just like you're doing a drum solo and then you go into a groove that has nothing to do with what you just played. But anyway, so it's really ironic that I was able to, make my stamp on a heavy metal song, and like you said, have the intro be what it is. So I'm honored and proud of that.
Yeah, I'm gonna take note of that. It's like, make your own trademark intro song, and come out with just a crazy ass roll and then go into a song.
Awesome, dude. Go for it.
So I want to let people know why we're also here to talk about. It's about this just huge release that you guys have coming up. This huge box set celebrating the 50 years of Judas Priest, 50 heavy metal years. This box set comes out in October, and it's just amazing. And have you had a chance to see it yourself?
Yeah, I have a copy. Even though, if I do quotes one more time, dude, that's it. I'm gonna tie my. I'm gonna sit here like this. No, but I do have it's a big box. It's very, very heavy, like literally and figuratively. It's a heavy product. But if you don't have any Judas Priest songs, or you want the whole collection, this is the one I think to have. And Priest has had a few compilations come out over the years, but this one is the granddaddy essential one, I believe.
Yeah, it's like practically the golden anniversary. 50 years. 50 years is a statement, man. And
absolutely,
to still be able to be on stage and do what you guys do, especially Bloodstock open air. Jesus Christ, man, that's amazing. Let's just to give people a heads up what they have. 3 previously unreleased original 24-track live recordings. That's a mouthful. You have all the albums, all the live albums, which is like a total of 29 CDs. There's like pictures signed by you guys, which is amazing.
Right.
Remastered, all the CDs are remastered. There's so much here, man. So much here. Posters and more memorabilia. There's like, what can I say? There's like the list of all the things that are included in this box set. It's more than worth it, man. More than worth it.
Thank you.
What led to the decision of releasing a huge box set like this?
Well, I mean, like you mentioned, it's the 50th, so that's the golden anniversary, and that's a good time. I mean, 50 is a good.
Nice round number.
If you can do anything for 50 years, dude, I don't care if it's playing heavy metal or making milkshakes on the corner. If you can do something for 50 years, that's an accomplishment. So it should be celebrated. It should be honored. And secondly, I think, because everyone's had roughly a good 2 years to reflect on just life, man, it really put everything in perspective. And sadly, a lot of people have really suffered, the ones that are no longer with us. And I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but it's a thing, and unfortunately it's still with us. So point being that we're all older now, and I think we all have an appreciation of just life. So this is just a small modicum of music that Judas Priest has been able to produce, and we decided to release it. So it is what it is.
Yeah, it's gonna be like for the definite like Judas Priest fan. This is something that you have to have, especially just for the remasters alone on every album. Especially like the Unleashed in the East. Some like one of the best, recognized as one of the best like live albums. And of course, we talked about Painkiller, which I can't wait to hear. I was blasting Angel of Retribution last night, and getting prepared for this interview with you. And again, a pleasure to talk with you. We're here with Scott Travis, drummer for Judas fucking Priest. And thanks again for taking the time right here. And you said you had another KNAC story?
Yeah, dude. So I lived in LA from 1985 to 1990. I was in the band Racer X back then, and that's ultimately what led to Judas Priest. So if you remember back in the terrestrial radio,
There you go.
Oh, dude.
Take a drink. Take a drink.
Anyway, back in the terrestrial radio days, KNC was, and then I'm really either going to bore people or maybe there's 2 or 3 people. Yeah, I remember that. So they were broadcasting down in Long Beach.
Long Beach.
And they didn't have a lot of power as far as the projection of their signal. And I lived in the San Fernando Valley. So the signal would barely come in. You'd be driving in your car. And you're like, man, it'd come in, the case. I would just have it on 105.5, right? Mm-hmm. That was the call letter back then. No, 90. Yeah. Was it 90?
No, 105.5, right? You got it right, 105.5.
Anyway, so the car was always tuned to that. And but the reception wasn't great. So whenever I would go down into Hollywood, like for instance, if Racer X was playing a show at the Troubadour, and I did this, that's why I remember this story. I'd bring my little boom box and it had a cassette recorder built in, and I would bring blank tapes and I would just set the boom box, on the side of the stage while we're setting up. And I would just record multiple cassette tapes, as many as I could fill up. And dude, true story, I still have those cassettes.
Nice.
And I was listening to them a few months ago. I was doing some work in the garage and I found them and I put them and I was just popping them in one after another. And they're fucking, the music is still killer. Like it's still playing all the great music we listen to today, as far as, being heavy metal fans, Metallica and Motley and Queensryche and Priest and everything in between. And it's anyway, that's a true story. That's how much of a quote unquote fan I was.
Yeah, believe me, I used to do the same thing, and like I'm sure like anybody that knew about KNAC, like they did a lot of that same thing too, And dude, I don't think we realized at the time. I mean, we were doing it, just to have something to listen to, driving around, never realizing like, KNAC will always be there. But eesh, man,
absolutely, dude. And I was a big fan, and it was really. Just we wanted it so bad. I wish that they would have more power, and obviously, I'm sure their projecting power came from not having enough money. Unfortunately, corporations and stuff like that. But anyways, it's still you're keeping the dream alive with KNAC, and I appreciate it, man. So
thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah. Good for you.
Thank you, man. I really don't take for granted what I'm doing here, and that I get to speak with some amazing artists, drummers like you, and I can scratch 2 members of Judas Priest off my list because one of the first interviews that I got to do was with Rob, and it was actually face to face, and awesome. Talking to metal gods like you and Rob, man, makes it all worthwhile, man. And I really appreciate trying to keep KNAC alive, because
man,
and talking about radio stations, man, I don't know if we're short of great radio stations here. We have that other one that plays the same repetitive songs over and over again, but that's why we got to turn to those tapes that you're saying, or whatever streaming service people are using these days.
Yeah, I could take those tapes and literally run like a podcast and just play songs off those tapes, and people think, wow, he's spinning some cool songs, But of course, I'd have to do a lot of editing because they're on literally cassette tapes. Yeah. But yeah, it's good that you guys are keeping the metal music alive.
Thanks. And same goes for Judas Priest, man. You guys are still out there doing it. And do you guys? You said I think you guys mentioned that you did a new song live, or are you guys in the writing process as well?
Well, the writing's been going on for off and on again during the past couple of years, but it's been a struggle in the sense that there were a lot of travel restrictions, and some of us live in the United States, and some cats live in the UK, so it's been a bit of a struggle, but. We haven't started tracking drums yet. We might do that after this American leg, hopefully later this year.
Yeah.
And that's really when the quote unquote, in my opinion, the rubber meets the road, when you actually get into a real studio and mic everything up and start slamming it out. Yeah. So that will happen later this year for sure.
Because the tour kicks off like next month, and it almost seems. I mean, first it's like a lot of the American leg of the tour, but it almost kicks off right into like the rest of the world too, right?
Well, we play basically 2 months in America, so it's early September through November, and then take a Christmas break, and then in January we're, dude, I'm going to do the fucking quotes right now because they're deserved. I'm not, but we're supposed to do dates with Ozzy. It'll be our third attempt to play with Ozzy in Europe. So hopefully he's of good health and he can do it this time. And again, that's about, I think, 6 or 7 weeks if it materializes. And then from there, yeah, we have dates and plans for all of 2022, God willing. So we'll just have to see how it goes, you know.
Right. You guys recently released Firepower. Were you able to fulfill the tour, everything that you wanted to do with Firepower to promote it?
Yeah, we really did. We went to, well, I couldn't tell you all, but we went to the major continents, you know, you have to go to, as far as Asia and America, of course, and South America and Europe. So we covered those territories, and I think we only missed 1 or 2 shows. One was weather related in America, and the other one, I think Rob may have picked up a bug or something. So yeah, we fulfilled everything we needed to do. And again, we know what happened right after that. The last date was July 3rd, 2019, if I remember. It was in Las Vegas.
Oh, wow.
That was the last live date, but that was the scheduled end of the tour anyways. And then later that year, you know, everything kind of went to hell in a handbasket, as they say.
Yeah, essentially. If you don't mind me asking, like, how did you pass the time during that whole, you know, bullshit, lockdown bullshit, like, and keep yourself busy?
Well, I'll be honest, you know, dude, I'm not a go out party type kind of guy anyway. So it wasn't, I mean, it sucked as far as just not wanting to get sick, and obviously just trying to avoid the thing that was out there, the virus itself. But I always have things to do, man. I obviously playing drums is kind of a self-absorbed instrument. In other words, you know, you have drums, you have a room, put on some headphones, jam out with some songs, or play along with a click track for practicing or whatever. And so I was good. So stayed locked down. And I guess the most difficult part was just understanding how other people were suffering physically and monetarily, you know, people not being able to work and things like that was really disheartening. And but like I said, it was 2 years and nobody wants to go back to that again. So
Yep.
we're here, and thank God, and let's move forward.
Yeah, and I hope everybody soaks every minute of it, you know, and now the concerts are back. It's just, you know, don't take that shit for granted, man.
Exactly. That's what I'm hoping that people, I know I've, like I said earlier in this interview, you'd have more of an appreciation for all of us that are still above ground. And just, you know, we lost a lot of musicians in the past year or two,
Yep.
you know, and
A lot of family.
yeah, that's always difficult. So we're all lucky to be here, man.
Totally, man. And pleasure to speak to you. And drummer to drummer, you probably have more than a couple of sets at home, but what are you playing right now? Tell us about your kit.
I've been with been blessed to be with DW drums now for, gosh, about 10, 12 years, probably at least. Again, time flies. So I'll think of something and I go, yeah, that was 2 or 3 years. And somebody goes, dude, that was 9 years ago. And I'm like, what? So, but I've been with DW for a long time, and I've been with Painkiller Cymbals for a longer time. And they're both great companies, and DW, man, they're just, to me, they're the Rolls Royce of drum companies. They'll make anything you want them to make, and they still have a factory there in Oxnard, California. So they're mostly American made, and I like that. And so that's what I'm rocking out this year and for years to come, hopefully.
What do you do to keep yourself in shape all these years?
Again, I'm blessed. You know, I have, I guess, a metabolism that I can eat kind of what I want to eat, and luckily it doesn't go straight to my hips or anywhere for that matter. I wish it did some other places, but anyways, I work out a little bit, and I think drumming, obviously is a physical activity, so that definitely keeps you in shape. And I just like to stay busy, whether I'm doing yard work or building something or tinkering around in the garage. I like to stay physically active, and that's it. I don't have any special regimen. You know, people might ask a question, but I'm not a fanatic about anything.
Right.
And so, and I don't really have a special diet, although I've just tried to, as you get older, you want to limit sugar intake and stuff like that.
No,
But
of course.
I'm not a fanatic about anything.
And as you prepare to like record, what kind of inspiration or what do you turn to like get ideas for like some new material for the new record?
Well, gosh, man, again, I don't have a set plan or anything that my go-to formula for getting inspired or for practicing for sure, which is what I've been doing recently, even right now, even though we just did the gig last weekend in the UK, took a few days off and flying back to the States. And now I got a rehearsal space and I go down there and woodshed on my own and just really listen to all the material that we're going to be doing live and play along and re-listen and try to pick up the subtleties of Les Banks and Dave Holland and stuff that I played on off Painkiller. Like I said, we're doing One Shot of Glory and Hell Patrol. And it's funny, sometimes you listen to your own self play and you go, wow, I did that. And then you have to kind of relearn it. But it's fun, you know, it's fun to
Nice little
study.
challenge.
Huh?
Nice little challenge for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's fun. It's always, like you said, it's a challenge, and it is, and that's what keeps, I think, all musicians inspired, is to have the next challenge to try and conquer. So I like practicing by myself, you know, in a room. Like I said, put on some headphones that protect your ears, and go at it. It's fun.
Yeah. Who's doing the songwriting now these days?
It's same as it's been. It's Richie, Glenn, and Rob. And on Firepower, Tom Allum came back into the fold. Obviously, he had had early successes and credits with Judas Priest before I joined the band, way back in Screaming. And did he work on British Steel? I think he did. But anyways, definitely Screaming for Vengeance and stuff like that. So he came back in the mix for Firepower, and then obviously getting Andy Sneap on board was a real benefit. I've been a big fan of his sounds and things he'd accomplished with other bands, as far as the drum sounds, just overall production, and it was great to be able to work with him.
Mm-hmm. Very good. If we can flash back to the days of Painkiller and you transitioning from Racer X to like Judas Priest, how is it that you were approached, and was it like, this is Judas Priest asking me to come play with him? Like, can you flash back and think back?
Yeah, man, I certainly can. I was living on Coldwater Canyon in Sherman Oaks in California at the time. But Racer X had kind of reached its end. Paul had left to form Mr. Big with Billy Sheehan and the other cats in that band. And so Racer X was just kind of in limbo. We were still jamming together, and then we took on John Corabi and Bruce and John Juan Alderetti and myself, and then we formed the early stages of the Scream, but we called it Black Cloud before it was called the Screams. We had terrible luck and couldn't get any attention, and played a couple of shows in Hollywood, like at the Troubadour and stuff like that. And so around that same time, I guess it was the summer of '89, Jeff Martin called me just out of the blue and said, hey man, guess who's looking for a drummer? Jeff and Rob Halford had been friends for a number of years because they both lived in Phoenix. Jeff used to be in a band called Surgical Steel. Rob has had and still has a home in Phoenix, Scottsdale, for probably close to 40 years now. So they knew each other. They were mutual friends. And I guess Rob mentioned to Jeff that Dave Holland was leaving the band and they were going to be looking for a drummer. And Jeff mentioned me, and Rob was familiar with Racer X stuff because, again, Rob and Jeff being friends, Jeff was saying, hey, here's our new record, Second Heat. Here's our new record, live album, Extreme Volume 1, So anyways, Rob had those records in his possession. So I'm assuming now, but I'm assuming he listened to them and was familiar with my playing. And then my name got thrown in the hat for Judas Priest. They flew me over to Spain. And when was this? This must have been, gosh, August of '89. Yeah, it was August of '89. And I auditioned and got the gig. And from there, it was the rest is history, as I say.
Nice, nice. And some awesome history that's documented on the 50 heavy metal years of music Judas Priest release coming out in October 15th, I believe. And this is the collection that you want to get. It's worth every penny. Like so much material on this, so much artwork and signed photos from the band. And do you have a favorite piece or something that you've seen like in the collection?
Dude, I'm old school. We are talking earlier about, I remember, well, in my day, I'm not doing the quotes, I'm just raising. In my day, albums, you buy a record album, and I'm going to just pick up anything. And so here's your album, and you're playing it, and you're listening to the music, but you would look at the album back and front for hours, just studying it, every little word on it. So
The artwork.
thank you. So that's exactly what I'm segueing. So the booklet that comes in there and all the classic photos, I think that's a real benefit. I think there's some photos in there that people hadn't seen before online, or maybe they've been in magazines 20, 30, 40 years ago. But the booklet's really cool. It's got a lot of great photos, and the music, obviously most Priest fans are familiar with the music. So it's the ultimate collection, as you said. So everything in it is cool.
Very good, very good. And again, drummer to drummer, do you have any piece of advice for me or any of the drummers that are trying to do what we do, trying to, get further ahead?
Well, something that I've said for a long time, it may be cliche now, but I think if you stick to what the music that you like, and by that I mean, and I can only speak from experience, an analogy. So back in the '80s, before I moved to LA, I grew up in Virginia, and you're playing in bands, and I always was a heavy metal rock fan. I always loved just rock music, hard rock, whatever you call it. And so you'd get offers to do gigs for top 40 bands, and top 40 bands were playing better rooms and they were making more money. And dude, I just couldn't do it. And occasionally you do it, just to try it out and just go, wow, this is awful. So I use that sort of analogy just to say, stick and stay true to the music that you like to play. And it doesn't mean you're going to make it one way or another, but I think that's a good core value to hold on to. Just always stay true to what you enjoy. And that way also, if you don't quote unquote make it, which I don't even know what that means anymore, but at least you're still having fun. You're playing the music that you enjoy playing. You're not doing something just for other alternative reasons. How about that?
Right. And one last question, or at least if you have any, last words that you want to say to like the fans, the Judas Priest fans, that are anticipating your return to the stage, or just any final words?
Well, absolutely. First of all, thank you to all the Judas Priest fans worldwide. And I'm sure people will see this video from other parts of the world, not just in the United States. But thank you sincerely for sticking with us for 50 years. And I don't know if we'll be around another 50, but we'll certainly be around for another few years. And if we can all stay healthy and enjoy music live again and come see the band, and we hope to see you guys out on the road worldwide. So thank you very much.
Very good. And thanks for your time, Scott. It's been a pleasure to speak to you. Give a fist bump and a horns to Judas Priest and everybody in the camp. And we'll see you soon, man.
Awesome, dude. Thanks a lot, man.
All right. Cheers.
Later.